Hey guys, so every week on Wednesdays, I'm hoping we'll be able to get together and give you a little preview about the upcoming matchups, as well as I'm going to focus on recaps of the previous fantasy week. Glad to have you guys with us this year, and Giselle's butt clench 5. So, and as we move into the postseason, what I'll be doing more is focusing on those previews. I'll still be doing the recaps. During the regular season, it's definitely about the recaps, but when we get into the playoffs, definitely be focusing more on the matchup previews. For this week, though, I thought I'd go through each of the teams, talk a little bit about some of the strengths, maybe the weaknesses, and just kind of analyze the draft and that sort of thing. So let's jump right into it. Flying high like an eagle. This is the first year they're going to be joining us in our league, and they actually got the first overall pick, which they selected Todd Gurley. And my question is he going to be as good as he was last year, or are we going to get Todd Gurley a couple seasons ago, averaging under 4 yards a carry? And actually, his job as a starting running back in St. Louis, now LA, was questioned at the time. I tend to think with that good offensive line in St. Louis, he's going to be all right. And after Eagle selected Gurley, really kind of built around a couple core players, one of which is going to be Tyreek Hill out of Kansas City. He's a dual threat receiver. He can run the ball as well. That's something a little bit different than what we might see in some of the other wide receivers. The guy has phenomenal speed and is really a dual threat. But my question is Patrick Mahomes a good enough quarterback to get him the ball in the air, or are they going to have to focus more on running the ball with him? And are they going to become a predictable team with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback? Drew Brees was selected as their quarterback. Now, last year he had a down fantasy year. I would know I had him on my team. And that's because the Saints realized the first time since like the early 2000s when they had Ricky Williams and Deuce McAllister at running back, that they can actually run the ball. They don't have to throw it 50 times a game. So they did that with Ingram and Kamara. But this year we have, of course, Ingram's on suspension for the first couple of weeks of the season. And Kamara could get that sophomore slump you see a lot of players get. So Drew Brees could get those fancy numbers right back up there as what it had been probably for the past, 15 years, honestly. So that'll be something to watch for. And, of course, Eagles selected the Philadelphia Eagles as their defense, which is natural, I suppose. Next, we're going to go to Vic's dog sitting service, yours truly. I was embarrassed last year with a 4-7 record. Did not make the playoffs. Had a couple unlucky weeks. But this year, my draft focused mostly on rushing. That's why I picked Kareem Hunt first overall. I also selected McCaffrey, who's supposed to be involved more in the rushing offense this year, as opposed to where he was more in receiving last year, in that sort of expanded role for him. As well as Jordan Howard, which for a bad Bears team, you take a look at some of his numbers, and they're just absolutely crazy. The yards per carry, the rushing yards at the end of the season. He's not much of a pass-catching back. They have somebody else for that now. But I really think in the flex position for me, he's going to do very well there. And I'm putting my trust in Russell Wilson at quarterback. I didn't know if that's going to be a good decision at first. And going to the draft, I decided I probably wasn't going to do it. And then I was looking for a quarterback, and all of a sudden I saw that there was a little write-up about quarterback Russell Wilson and the fact that he was an MVP candidate, and then just those 3 letters, MVP, sold me on him. I drafted him. We'll see how that goes. They have no offensive line. They have no rushing attack whatsoever besides Wilson, which is another reason why I got him. I figured he can throw for 250 and run for 50. That's more points for me. And then my wide receiver core is going to be having to hold out until Julian Edelman returns from a suspension. Yeah. And so we're hoping on my team that the wide receiver core can just kind of keep it together for the first few weeks until Edelman returns and hopefully gets back into the role that he was. He will be out of the league for about a year and a half now after the knee injury and the suspension, so we'll have to see about that. Next, we have Adrian's Daycare. He surprised everyone with drafting Aaron Rodgers first overall, not a running back, not a wide receiver. We'll see how that goes for him. He did pay for it now being a little light on the running backs. I don't know about anyone else. I've gotten about 16 trade requests from him looking for running backs. I have not taken up on that offer, any of them. But he also has a very talented wide receiver core with A.J. Green and T.Y. Hilton. And they're going to be interesting. A.J. Green's always pretty good. He's one of the top 5 wide receivers, I would say. T.Y. Hilton was when Andrew Luck was healthy. Last year, obviously, without Andrew Luck, what's he supposed to do when someone can't throw him the ball? Similar to what we're talking about with Patrick Mahomes, it's going to depend on if Andrew Luck can stay as healthy and as good as he used to be. He's been out of the league for a while, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. Even so, last year with Jacoby Brissett throwing to him, T.Y. Hilton had a nice season, just not really to his full potential. And of course, he also rounded out with another nice receiver, tight end, Jordan Reed. I really like Jordan Reed at tight end. The guy's huge. He's fast, and now he has a quarterback who's always preferred throwing the tight ends in Alex Wilson. So we'll see what that does for the Washington Redskins and for Adrian's daycare. Now we got the same Darnold Jets, last year's champ. He had the 12th pick, last pick of the first round, and he selected Saquon Barkley, really trusting in that rookie. We'll see how that goes. The last 5 years or so, Giants have not had a rushing attack at all, and we'll see if Saquon Barkley can change that. And hopes are in New York that will happen. So that could turn out to be a very good pick for him. Matt Stafford at QB, formerly the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, no longer. And he selected OBJ, now the highest paid wide receiver, making like $100 million or something like that. And really looking to turn the Giants season around from what it was last year, an abysmal year for them. So we'll see. If luckily we're not playing any sort of pay cap, salary cap, or with those first 2 picks, well, with Matt Stafford and OBJ, I think he wouldn't be allowed to pick anyone else. That would be his entire salary cap. And then he selected Corey Davis because you got to figure Tennessee got to throw it at somebody. Someone's going to catch balls out there, right? So that could turn out to be a decent pick. He really surprised everyone that in the 6th round, despite defensive players, we got to have something special in our league where defensive players individually can also be selected as opposed to just a defensive team. And they're not really big point getters, but in a close matchup, they can make a difference. And maybe that's what Sam Darnold Jets was thinking when he selected Joey Bosa in the 6th round. And a few players that were drafted shortly after him, just to put this in perspective, was running back Lamar Miller, my quarterback Russell Wilson, running back Mark Ingram. All of these people were selected after the Joey Bosa selection. So Joey Bosa is hurt right now. We'll see if that turns out to be a very good selection by Sam Darnold Jets, although he was champion last year, so we can't question him all that much. Now we're on to the Tampa Two-Steppers, and they're really looking to do something special this year. He went out and grabbed 3 running backs, the same plan that I had, selecting Melvin Gordon first overall. He went ahead and drafted Cam Newton at quarterback, which again, similar to my strategy, gives him that ability to get some rushing yards out of the quarterback position. And then he went out and got the best ranked defense in the league in Jacksonville. You're looking at some of the most successful sort of, maybe not so much modern day NFL offenses or NFL teams. It's all about running game, controlling the clock, and your defense just being a shutdown defense. So he's building that same strategy in fantasy. We'll see if that works. We have Rumpelstiltskin, Stilpin, something like that. First year in the league, regardless, we're glad to have him. He went ahead and drafted Le'Veon Bell in the first round, very risky, but a lot of people thought that Le'Veon by this point would have come around and said, okay, I'm going to play, franchise tag me, it doesn't matter, I'm in. Unfortunately, that's not the case. He's still held out all throughout training camp, and now is holding out into week 1. But Rumpel did rebound quite well by picking up James Conner, who is the replacement. He's obviously not Le'Veon Bell, but to be able to grab James Conner and kind of salvage that first round pick, at least until Le'Veon gets back, I think was a very strong move by Rumpel. One question we've got to have for him is that he has Patrick Mahomes at quarterback starting week 1, which is fine. We can see what he's made out of. But the question we have is he has no other quarterback on his roster. He's going all in on Patrick Mahomes. Maybe he has some inside information. We're not sure. But that's something that we're going to have to look out for. Quarterbacks are important in this league. And with a first-year starter in Mahomes and getting used to that new offense, we'll see how that goes for him. Next we have Fitz Ness on him. All right, and he always has some sort of Cardinals name. He's a big Cardinals fan. He's actually a 5-year veteran of the Giselle Butt-Clench League, so we're glad to have him back. Very strong at the wide receiver group this year. He drafted Antonio Brown in the first round, and he also has Fitzgerald as well, which fits nice with his name. Fits nice with his name, F-I-T-Z. So really, very strong at the wide receiver group, and he may appear a little weak at the running backs with Adrian Peterson, who's a bit of a head case. We saw that last year, and Giovanni Bernard. But Adrian Peterson, everyone always is still saying he's the guy. He can, like he was before, he can come back and put up huge numbers. We'll see. So he does appear a little weak there, but we'll see what happens. But he does have Tom Brady. Tom Brady hopefully will make up for those lack of numbers maybe in the running back position. And, of course, he has the Cardinals' defense, which is just right for him. Next, we have Ray Rice Counseling. He was the champ 2 years ago, but he missed the draft last year, some sort of scheduling mix-up, I heard. So that really, he wasn't really able to recover from from not being there for the draft. This year, he was here. He was ready to go. He drafted Ezekiel Elliott first overall. Ezekiel Elliott, much like Ray Rice Counseling, is looking to bounce back this year. After being suspended last year for 6 games or something like that. It was a while. And now he's looking to come back. He's going to be healthy. He's going to be here a full year. And we'll see what he can do down there in Dallas. As usual, Ray Rice Counseling drafted quarterback Cousins for his team. And this is going to be interesting because Cousins is going to be in his first year in Minnesota. I am of the belief that Minnesota actually has a better team than Washington did, not only defensively, but actually with the wide receivers as well. So I think Cousins, if he can get acclimated to the new offense up there, is actually going to be a lot more successful than he was in Washington. At least I hope so, because I have him in another league of mine. And Ray Rice also drafted Mike Evans from Tampa Bay. Mike Evans has always been one of the best wide receivers since he's been around. And he always seems to kill me whenever I play him. But this year, without Jameis Winston for the first 4 games, is Ryan Fitzpatrick going to be able to give him the ball as often as Winston did? So if he can deal with that for the first 4 weeks, who knows? It could be successful. But if he can deal with that for the first 4 weeks, and then Winston comes back and is the normal Winston that he is, although they haven't guaranteed that he has his starting job back when he does return, but I can't imagine that Fitzpatrick beats him out for that. But after those first 4 weeks, Mike Evans should be right back to where he was for the past 5 years. Next, we have the London Silly Nannies. They drafted Alvin Kamara first round. With Ingram being suspended for the first 4 games, I believe, you can expect a lot of production from Kamara in the first few weeks. And we're talking, he's another one of these running backs that's just incredible because he led the team, obviously, in rushing yards last year, but he also was one of the top guys in receiving yards on that team. Incredible speed and elusiveness. He's really fun to watch, and we'll see what he can do if he can build on that in his second year, or if, like we talked about earlier, he might have one of those sophomore slumps. As well as Kamara, we have wide receivers Keenan Allen and Adam Thielen. These guys just do nothing but just catch balls all year long. So he's going to have lots of receptions and probably receiving yards, obviously, to go with that as well. And he has Alex Smith at quarterback. This is going to be his first year in Washington. He's going from one, again, he always throws to these tight ends. I got to be thinking that he's going to find Jordan Reed a lot this year. And Jordan Reed is really not that much of a step down from Travis Kelce, what he was used to in Kansas City. So I think Alex Smith is actually going to do quite well in Washington. But again, quarterbacks, transferring systems, getting used to a new offensive setup could face a little bit of struggle in the first couple games or so, but I think he's going to do well in Washington. Next, we have Team Blessum. He was kicked, as I was under the impression that he actually was not around and didn't care about his team last year. I was told that wasn't the case. In any case, he has returned, and he selected Julio Jones in the first round. There's a lot of question marks with his roster after that. Got Dalvin Cook in Minnesota coming off a major injury last year. I believe that was his rookie year, though. He's still young. He should be able to bounce back from that. Royce Freeman is largely unknown. We'll see what he can do. Robbie Anderson may be suspended for an off-field incident involving a few choice words to a police officer who pulled him over for doing like 60 miles over the speed limit. And then he's got some people who are injured and suspended. So right now he's going with Andy Dalton at quarterback, who I think is going to be fine to just stream for the time being. He's not a guy you're going to want to carry all year round. He's not going to get you where you need to go. But he has Carson Wentz in waiting. The question about Wentz is he going to be good? Is he going to be healthy again? He's missing the first couple weeks because of the injury from last year. But my big question with that is when you have a guy who was the starter of the Eagles, went down with an injury, and then you have Nick Foles come in and replace him and then actually lead that team to a championship. My question is, what is Foles going to do the first couple of weeks? We saw that game against Atlanta was not really that great for him, but he had a couple bad games. He had a bad game in the playoffs too, and they still ended up winning the game, much like they did in Atlanta. And then he went on to have one of the best Super Bowls in history, only probably second to Tom Brady in that same game. But it's very interesting to me what's going to be going on in Philadelphia, because if you have Carson Wentz come in there after, say, Nick Foles has a couple bad games or something, then you have Carson Wentz come in, he doesn't put up good numbers, then how quick is that trigger to go back to Foles, the guy who led you to a championship? And alternatively, if Foles starts picking up and does really well, can you really replace him? So that's going to be interesting. We may see something in the trade or waiver wire to shore up that quarterback position. And again, he has Mark Ingram on suspension as well. So if he can just wait a couple weeks and he can survive the first 4 weeks or so and be at about 500, 2-2, I think he's really in a good spot. Next, we have Edel Cielter. He just barely lost the championship last year. It's a very close matchup. Drafted DeAndre Hopkins first overall, and then he made a deal for Michael Thomas. He shipped Lamar Miller off, and he had Doug Baldwin. He still does on his bench. So we're kind of surprised to see that he was looking for another wide receiver, but maybe he doesn't trust Doug Baldwin. I'm not sure. But we'll need to see if that trade was worth it, and we probably won't know really until the end of the season with a lot of these trades. So we'll see. But is Leonard Fournette going to be enough to carry that running back position? We'll see about that as well. And he went ahead and drafted quarterback Matt Ryan, who 2 years ago had the greatest season he's ever had and was MVP. Last year with the new Steve Sarkisian offense scheme, not so much. So we'll see if they can finally throw some touchdowns or score any touchdowns in the red zone, because they had that struggle last year, and again they had that struggle week 1 against the Eagles. And our last team to go over here today is Team York. He actually missed the draft. And then in looking at the post-draft analysis available in the league, he actually came out having probably the best draft. So it was kind of funny to see that. He went ahead and had, I suppose, the bot drafted David Johnson, who's going to be a monster this year as long as he can stay healthy, which he has most of his career so far. He really could be one of the most exciting teams after the deal for Lamar Miller. So really, he's going to have a lot of running backs. I think he's going to be a really, really good team. But all eyes are going to be on Andrew Luck as quarterback. Is Andrew Luck, after being out of the league for so long with injuries, is he going to be healthy? Is he going to stay healthy? And is he going to be anywhere near as good as he was a couple of years ago when he was leading the Colts to the playoffs every year? I would say even if he can just be 75% of the quarterback that he was back then, that he's going to be good. He's going to be a lot better than most of the other quarterbacks in the league, and that Team York's going to be fine. Also, some eyes are going to be on LaShawn McCoy. Is he going to stay healthy? He gets a lot of workload out there in Buffalo. Is he going to stay healthy? and is he going to be suspension free because he's right now being investigated for crimes committed, I believe, in Georgia. Not sure what the crimes are. I don't know if it's domestic violence or what, but there could be a suspension on the way for him. We'll see what happens with that. The last update I had was that there was no incriminating evidence against him at this time, and that has been found. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. And lastly, can Gronk stay healthy for him? Basically, the way that I see this team can stay healthy and live up to expectations, which I suppose we could all say that for all of our teams. This is going to be a really dominating team, somebody to watch for. So that's all of our teams we have in the league this year. I'm really looking forward to playing with you guys again. I'm hoping to do a little better this year. And again, I hope to be doing these little videos and posting them on Wednesdays to kind of give a preview, and go over the recaps as well. So again, guys, have a good season. Stay active and check out the videos. And feel free to put your comments and whatever else, your thoughts below. If you have questions, go ahead and put some of those down. And if you want me to focus on talking about some other things that I might have missed, let me know, and I'll be sure to have some of those for you for our next video. All right, guys, take it easy.